think
We
they
got
offer
it.
any other voice. I actually like her voice.
Yeah, her voice is very pleasant. Hi, everybody. It's the Dead Air.
Hey,
Hey, hey, what's going on? Hey, it's the Dead Air Horror Review Show, and it's Chris and TJ. We're here. We went back down under, mate, for another Australian movie.
this
We've
has
done
been a
like
very
three.
Australian centric show.
We've done like
Uh,
3 or 4 Australian movies, haven't we?
And they've
I didn't
all
even.
been good or decent.
No, the one we didn't like, the one with like I can't think of the damn name of it now. The one with the guitar, the metal guitar, and then it was like
Oh,
the abductor. That one
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
very
yeah.
good. Or you know what though?
That was
That wasn't a
decent. That was
that
mid.
that wasn't a true Australian production though, was it? I think that the director was Australian, but I don't think the rest of the cast was, if
Yeah.
memory serves. But yeah, so we watched Lake Mungo, which is a movie I recommended because I've seen this movie pop up on like scariest horror movies, like best of horror movies of like the last 10 years, over and over and over again. And I was like, fuck it, let's watch it because I've never seen it. And this is another movie that falls under the category of the fucking the little um poster. I mean, it's not really a poster when you scroll through fucking Netflix and see it, but the cover image of most of the cover images I've seen of Lake Mungo are fucking terrible. And it's another one where it's like I see that and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look, the title's dumb and I don't like the cover, so I'm not gonna watch this movie.
Yeah.
I know it's stupid, but it happens. And because again, like it doesn't even, if the cover's bad and the title doesn't grab you, it doesn't even get your foot in the door. So I didn't even look up what it's about. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it wasn't until like, way later. I is there a way I can't, I don't think I can share this image, but I'm going to send it to Chris and maybe he can
Yeah,
like
I'll put it
edit
up
it in. But like the
right now.
main cover is like it's not even
No.
the main character. It's just a woman that's like poorly
A
like
ghostly figure.
photo
Uh
edited. No, that cover's not bad. This one is the one I'm gonna send it to you.
okay.
So just to
I'll,
describe it, it's literally a woman poorly photo edited into like a water trail. It's really bad. And
oh, yeah. They use like water, like a dispersion kind of
yeah,
technique.
it's not great.
But
It's
yeah, that's not even her, is it?
no, it's just somebody, and it's like now the
That's
one you're talking about,
it's
Chris,
a stock photo.
the one that's like on the Plex, not that that means anything to anybody else, but like the one that kind of looks like it's just like a kind of ghostly like photo
Yeah.
relic image. That one's not bad. That's not a bad cover at all, and it plays into the fucking movie. So I got no problem with that cover, but the one that I'm going to send you is just El
Yeah, I
Terrible.
just saw it. It's pretty
It's
terrible.
so bad.
Yeah.
Um,
It kind of, fits the theme of
I mean,
how
it
how
literally.
average the rest of the movie is.
Oh, really? You didn't like this one?
Nah, it didn't. It
Wow.
just
See, yeah, I
You
really
liked it?
liked it. I liked it a
Oh,
lot. I was
oh,
like
okay.
really impressed by it. Like I felt like, so first and foremost, for those that haven't seen it, we don't really do synopsises on this show, and it's just as well because this one would be a really tough one to do. This is
Yeah.
a and to go back to what I've been saying the last couple weeks, like in different subgenres of horror, this is a mockumentary. This is a total mockumentary. This isn't one that's like it's the making of the documentary. It is literally presented as a regular ass documentary. And what I was taken by is the lengths that they went to make this seem real.
It did
Uh,
feel like a real documentary. So I'll
if
give
you
them
show
that.
if you showed this to someone and didn't tell them this is a fake movie, I think that you could legitimately fool somebody into thinking this was a fucking real documentary.
Yeah.
Like I think that the sense of verisimilitude, there's a great word for you, is incredible. Like I
We'll put
thought
the
that like
definition up above so everybody.
I thought that we've talked about this with like found footage movies, and we talked about that a little bit with the VHS the VHS movie that we watched, where I get really irritated with these found footage movies where they kind of break their own rules all the time. They add music, they add cuts, they they spice it up because they want to make it a movie
Yeah.
movie. But this movie went out of its way to make sure that this was the most fucking like Netflix looking documentary. Like this just looked like a regular ass documentary. And there's at no point
Yeah.
to me did it feel fake. And I don't know, that alone really captured me. Like I was really impressed by it. And then, the movie deals with family who lost their daughter under mysterious circumstances. Basically, well, not I guess technically,
Yeah.
but and spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, pause the show, go watch it, come back. But what I liked about it was, or one of the things that I liked about it a lot was they ramped up the supernaturalness like in the background. Like I thought that it was cool where everything was like pretty normal and like pretty much like a murder mystery type thing until one specific thing happens. And then they introduce all this stuff like basically the concept of like time and like what time is to someone that's died and predestination. And then at the very end of the movie, they show a bunch of stills that we've seen as the audience throughout the whole thing. And the daughter is in all the shots. And the crazy part is, if you go back and look at those shots, when we saw them, she's in there too. You just didn't see her. And that
Yeah.
shit's fucking wild. Like, I'm like, that's fucking crazy. Like, I just really, well, one, I like documentaries first and foremost. I enjoy documentaries. I watch a lot of them. And I was really impressed by, like, I thought that it sounds silly to say, but there's a definite charm and there's a definite talent in being able to act natural and not look like you're acting. And I felt like all the actors in this movie, they felt like real people. There was never
Yeah.
like a moment where the veil slipped and I was like, oh, this is stupid. Like
Yeah. The footage they had of Alice, like, felt like you were
yeah,
watching a true crime documentary
exactly.
or like 48 hours.
And the fact that they could spoof like the cell phone footage in the movie or like the
Yeah.
home video footage, like everything looks so believable. And I thought overall, like I really enjoyed the like I thought that I'm not usually I'm not into like the ghost story stuff, but I thought that overall, like I enjoyed the fact that what this movie was doing, whereas you strip away the ghost story and the creepiness of some of the stuff that happens in it, and it's literally just a movie about a family that's grieving and they don't know how to move on with their lives. I think
Yeah.
that's really something that you can grab onto and I can definitely identify with. And I don't know, like again, like to me, I think it did so many right things, and I liked the intro that the stuff that's behind you is they showed pictures of basically those were medium photos that were edited like way back in the day, like way how they used to manipulate old photographs to try to show as proof of like spiritual, like the spirit realm and stuff, which is all a hoax, like
Mhm.
that shit wasn't real.
It's
But I
pretty
thought
cool.
that that's like that in and of itself is kind of an interesting like thing to kind of parallel your movie to, because it's like in the movie within the movie, it's the filmmakers kind of sowing doubt into what they're putting out there, right? Like in the mind of the fake documentarian that's making this, like they are undecided what they've seen. And I don't know, like again, like there's layers to this movie that I really, I don't know, it really like clicked with me because I think like you're to take a term out of like a video game or comic book thing. They're like lore building inside this movie. Like I don't know. That to me like really
Can you hold
clicked.
on 1 second? Hey, Sai, I'm doing my podcast, bud. What's
Oh,
up?
dad. Oh, daddy's a failure. Daddy.
I have no idea. No idea. Sorry. Sorry. I'll edit that out.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
What were you
okay.
saying?
No, I
Hey,
just
Sai,
to
can you
me
close the door?
I to me like I said, I just thought that like I was just really impressed with the whole production, right? Like one thing the movie that just stuck out in my head as I was watching this, and I have a very special place in my heart for this movie, is the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
And I think like and I see a lot of younger people talking about the movie Blair Witch Project, the original, and still liking it a lot. But I think that there is a certain experience that people that weren't there will never understand about that movie. Where when that movie first came out, and you probably remember this, I think we were in high school when that movie came
I
out,
think it
like
was, yeah, it was
junior
my
or senior year.
uh
It was,
I
I think it
think
was
no, it was like freshman year of college. So it was like
I was senior. Yeah, so
nine.
yeah,
Yeah, no, you're right. It was 99,
it was
like the tail end of
99.
99.
So when that movie first came out, one, it came out and it was like a pretty small release. Like it was an independent, and then it got enough like word of mouth, and people legitimately thought that movie was real.
Well, the marketing around it was genius, and that's what really
Yeah,
kind
it was
of tossed it in
fantastic.
the stratosphere.
And this is like really pre-internet. I mean, we had internet back then, but it was primitive. So I mean, like word of mouth, people were talking about it, and like people are like getting into it, and seeing it was like such an interesting experience. And like it was funny because back then the immediate blowback to that film was when people found out it wasn't real and they got like upset about it. It's like finding
Yeah.
out wrestling isn't real. And they'd like discredited the
Oh
movie.
yeah.
They
Like
discredited the movie because it was a movie, but like to me, I'm like, no, that was fucking brilliant. Like that
yeah.
whole thing was fucking brilliant. Like that whole production, it's just like this. Like I think that the level of believability in this movie and in Blair Witch like make it what it is. And it's just
Yeah.
like, I think that, I haven't seen too many movies that try. I can't think of another one really. Like there's a movie I really love called Man Bites Dog. That's a fake documentary movie, but that movie
Yeah.
isn't trying to be realistic either. That movie is at points like absolutely absurd. I mean,
Yeah.
it's about a documentarian crew that's following a serial killer, and at one point that he's been dumping all his bodies in this like quarry that's full of water, and at one point he goes to the quarry and it's fucking drained, and there's just like 50 bodies in there, and he's like, oh fuck, like
Oops.
that
Should have
movie
checked
is,
that earlier.
I mean, that movie is great, and it's
Yeah.
also a mockumentary, but that movie has no air of being like realistic. Like I don't know, the level of realism in this film really really grabbed me. So
Yeah.
what didn't resonate with you? You just like, and are you a guy that usually likes
Um,
the true crime documentary
I'm
stuff?
not a huge found footage guy, first and
No, well, not
foremost.
found footage, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't I wouldn't consider this a found footage movie either. I
Yeah.
mean it kind of is, but it's not really.
I mean, they literally find footage. I don't know.
Well,
Like,
yeah, but I mean like
but
the story structure isn't that of like a normal found
right.
footage
True.
movie.
Um, I think the once I watched the entire movie
Mhm.
and I tried to, you know, grasp what the director was trying to say, I think I agree with you. Like he was basically tackling grief and how we deal with
Yeah,
people, different people deal with grief in different ways.
yeah.
So that all made sense to me. The way in which he did it, I don't know. It just felt a little like I was walking in circles, like trying to find my way out of like a maze.
Hmm.
And I was like, hold on, where is this going? But I didn't necessarily like the direction in which it went. Um, I liked how in the beginning, though, he tried to throw you off the scent by saying, "Oh, the
The
brother
brother, yeah,
like made up some of these videos or pictures
right.
in order for the mom to like give her a reason to like exhume the body or whatever." Um, that was pretty clever, but like the rest of the movie, um, it, I don't know. It just seemed to me like it meandered a little bit, and especially when they finally found the footage, they found the cell phone.
Hmm.
Um, it seemed like that portion of the movie happened so quick. This is what I don't like about certain movies is where you kind of feel like you're being dragged along for a long portion of the movie and you're almost out of it, and then the last like 15 minutes they put so much in there.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, hold on, what? I'm kind of like fading off. Like I got to remind myself what had happened like the previous hour and a half. Um, but I thought, I don't know. I didn't really, first and foremost, from a visual like perspective, it was really difficult to make out what was in these videos, like
Well,
what's
yeah,
behind
well,
you.
yeah,
And I understand it's supposed to be authentic. I get that. But at the same time, it was really hard to like, I'm like really close to the screen, like trying to make out what the hell am I supposed to be looking at.
right.
Uh,
But I also, I mean, to me, I think that that's crucial to why it works because again, you're still, even though you're presenting something, well, you know, as this like document again in the artifice of the film, like again, you have to look at this in the perspective of this is a real document.
right.
Um, that you still have a seed of doubt as to what you're looking at. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's where I actually applaud them for doing it instead of making stuff like even again in the ending when you see the footage of her in the other photos, it's just like I'm glad that they didn't make it like so like I'm glad it's like crusty and like you still have a seed of doubt in your mind of what you're looking at. Like I
Yeah.
think that, to me I think that's really clever and
But
I don't know.
what was like, so was she possessed? Was something coming after her? Like
I mean, I obviously it's kind of vague, but from what this is what I took from the movie. I think that she
see,
basically what happens
can
to her.
I interrupt you real quick?
What's that?
The image behind TJ,
Of course.
for those who are listening, like that was the image found on the phone, like her
Yeah.
doppelganger that
She
she
saw.
had
Yeah,
captured on her phone. So it was
she
like
was.
this
She was
ghoul
in.
or this
She was in. Yeah, she went to this retreat, this like the school
like
trip
Mungo.
at Lake Mungo, and she saw her. She saw the vision of herself basically being dead, and so from what I think and my theory of the movie is that she basically saw her own death and she knew she was going to die and she didn't know when she was going to die but she knew she was going to die soon and that's why she talks to the psychic and she's talking about visions of being dead and then the movie kind of extrapolates this idea of predestination and like even though she hadn't died yet like she so like maybe what happens after you die is you kind of just live in this continuum forever like it's again it's very vague but the short answer is she saw that she was going to die and it freaked her the fuck out and then she did die and then like I think that there wasn't anything possessed it's just like you know it's vague on purpose like I don't think it was like a demon I don't think it was like a possession I think literally it was just like some weird like time dilation thing where you witnessed your own self dying which again is terrifying to think about like I that idea is very scary to me.
But it also had me thinking, if you okay, if you came back as a ghost, would you haunt the people that you loved the most?
Well but I don't think I think what
Like,
it's
wouldn't
trying
that
yeah
totally
but
fuck them up?
I don't think like you are like I think you're not like functioning right like you're not a
You're not
you're
a
not like
friendly
you're
ghost
not you're
like playing
there's only
pranks.
there's what am I trying to say there's only like whispers of you right like
Yeah.
that it's not your whole person it's just your essence or whatever like it's not it's just your spirit or
Mm,
whatever
my
it's some
essence.
remnant of you that's like sticking around it's not like all of you there and that's why I think like one of the parts of the movie that I like the most is when you find out that the psychic that's been helping them saw the daughter first and they do this thing where they cut back and forth between the daughter having this dream of her in the house and her mom can't see her and then in the future the mom having the same dream which is fucking crazy and again like this is what this movie is trying to say like this girl like somehow is in connection with her like future past present future self that's already dead and is witnessing through her eyes being dead
What
and now she's just trapped in this house forever and
what was
it's
she trying to tell her mom?
I don't think she was trying to tell her anything I think she was just that she was there you know what I mean I
Yeah.
think that's what's the scary part of that scene right is that I think in that realization of that dream because again the start of that conversation is you know are you afraid of dying
Yeah.
and I think the psychic even intuiting that she is scared of dying, and I think that that dream that she is having is her being dead, and then when her mother doesn't see her and her mother eventually just walks away, she understands that she is dead in this scenario.
Yeah.
and and then her again, her some part of her is there the entire time and was there, you know, before the events of her death happened, which again is fucking like it's kind of terrifying, like to think about. Like again, it goes into this whole idea of predestination, right? Like she was going to die no matter what, and she was, in a weird way, she was already dead, which is fucking freaky. Like I love that kind of stuff. Like I think that again, like when you mess with kind of our perception of time, and like I think that's really interesting. And I liked again that final, it's almost the final scene, but that scene where they cross cut between the mother having her current session, like her last session, and a session that the daughter had that we hadn't seen yet, and they're the
Yeah.
same basic dream without, like, I just thought that was great. Like and then at the ending credits to have all the images of her
Yeah.
again, still she's there the whole time. Like again, that's just, I don't know, it's something that stuck with me. Like it reminded me of there's a movie that I really like. It's not a horror movie, but it is incredibly depressing. It's called A Ghost Story.
Hmm.
Um, and it's, have you seen it?
Yeah.
I love that movie. I think that movie is absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant and very hard to watch, especially if you've lost someone. It's a tough sit. But there's a point in that movie where there's a ghost in the Casey Affleck, I think that's who's the
Yeah.
ghost in that movie. The
Mhm.
Casey Affleck ghost looks across to his neighbor, and there's another ghost over there, and they have like a conversation. They don't actually talk; it's subtitled. And that like the one ghost, Casey Affleck ghost, is like, "Well, who are you waiting for?" And the ghost is like, I don't remember anymore." And like
Yeah.
I think that kind of speaks to what this movie is, right? Like that she's there, but like at a certain point, like she's just stuck there because that's where she was. And like, I don't know, we talked a little bit about how the afterlife was portrayed in Talk to Me, and how much I enjoyed that, and how just like how terrifying that afterlife is, where you're just kind of
Stuck
stuck in this
for
fucking place
eternity in,
forever.
yeah.
And I feel like this movie is kind of saying the same thing, like, and it's also like incredibly sad.
Yeah.
um I will say, like, to go way back to your point about the movie being a little meandering, I don't disagree. I actually think, but I also like am very conditioned by documentary, like that's how documentaries are always structured. They always try to like throw something else at you. Like the only story beat in this movie that I didn't really understand, and I don't know why it's in the movie, and it definitely felt like padding, is when you find out that she was question mark sexually assaulted by the neighbors, or was into the neighbors, like
Yeah,
we don't
I'm
know.
glad you brought that up. That was an
And
interesting twist, I thought, in
but
the movie too, that I was totally not expecting. But
also,
I
what's
actually,
the age of consent in Australia? Because yikes. But like she's
yeah.
16.
Um,
But like, what was the purpose of that? Like it didn't go anywhere. I was like, okay, like, and I'm sure you probably thought the same thing, but not soon, or not far after that scene is the scene in the at like Mungo, where she buries something, and they don't know what she buried, and the family goes to find it. And I don't know about you, but I was like, oh, it's gonna be a fucking baby, like it's a fetus or whatever
yeah.
that she. But no, it wasn't. It was her stuff. But so like I don't like I and
Uh,
again, like I know, so maybe it is doing the thing because, sometimes real life has story beats that don't really tie up and go anywhere. But like I know it's not I know it's a movie, so I'm like, I didn't really understand the need to throw that wrinkle in there. Like
I
I
think
didn't.
it could be purely sensational just to like get people to be like, whoa, what the hell is this? But
Yeah,
I think what, again, maybe they were trying to throw us off the scent again and
yeah,
say,
I
like, oh,
definitely.
it's possible that this couple had something to do with the death of Alice, because
Oh yeah.
there was the tape in Alice's safe in her room that showed the the Alice and the couple, the older couple, having a threesome.
Yeah,
So obviously the couple never wanted this video to get out for obvious reasons. They
right.
probably could have gone to jail. So the husband's
I can only assume. I don't know. Unless Australia is one of those countries where like age of consent is like 14 or something and absolutely insane.
yeah, like Alabama.
Shout out to Japan. I think they
Shout
literally
out.
I think they just upped their age of consent to like 16, but it was like 2 years ago. It's like Jesus
Isn't it
Christ.
crazy that in the United States it's state by
It's so
state?
high. Yeah, I know. No, I'm just kidding.
You'll never catch me saying that ever,
I,
nor
I
nor
would
would I ever. But
I would
why isn't there a
suggest it.
federal like okay, we're getting off topic. But
Yeah.
so the husband was trying to get um this movie back, this videotape, and was caught on security camera basically.
Yeah,
There's
because
in the
they were
house.
they left basically what they did was they left these cameras running. The psychic brought over these cameras and they left these cameras running in the hopes of seeing something, catching
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
And what I gathered from this is, and they kind of touched on it again with the boyfriend. In so many words, it's like, do you really know who this person is?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, you think
I
you know
got that.
somebody, but you really don't. And maybe we'll never have all the answers. Like, if this
Sure.
is something that, because she could have gotten rid of the videotape, she could have
Right.
destroyed it. Why did she keep it? She
Yeah.
could have kept it as, like blackmail. She could have kept it. Who knows? That'll never be answered. But I think, uh, yeah, it makes a point that even your closest, the people closest to you that love you the most, might not have any idea who you really are.
Oh yeah.
So
You
you'll
don't know.
always be grasping for
You don't
answers.
know nothing about me. After
I know.
9:30, it's a
I
whole
know.
different ball game, man. You don't even know. Yeah,
you
I
have
mean,
you have a safe with a bunch of videotapes in it.
oh yeah, definitely.
We
Uh
sneak it in later.
yeah. Yeah, I mean I definitely get that. I mean they definitely hammered that home too in a weird way that a lot of this movie like, her one friend said that she had like secrets on top of secrets and stuff and
Yeah.
in a weird way it reminded me a little bit of like Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks where, she was this idealized person in her public life, but
Mm.
in her private life something else. But they kind of only scratched at that. Like that segment is kind of the only thing
Yeah.
that kind of speaks to that. And it's like, again, like it's a tightrope act, right? Because if you go too far and too salacious, then you're like, okay, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I felt like they might have needed to do something. I think they might have needed to flesh out Alice's character just a little bit more, in my personal opinion. And
Yeah.
also, there's other little things. And again, like this speaks to the nature of documentary filmmaking. So all of this is probably very intentional. But like, because like you just said a couple of times, there's things to throw you off the track, right? And they do this in real documentaries too, a lot. Because again, they're not structured like a regular movie. So you got to introduce characters. So your audience is like, oh, like thinking outside the box. Like, what about this? And they briefly touched on the mother and the grandmother not having a good relationship, and then the mother and the daughter having kind of a strained relationship. But
Mm.
again, it's kind of only given lip service and then kind of just goes away.
Yeah.
And a part of me wishes like some of the stuff towards the end, I wish you would have had, I don't know, something more there. I don't know what exactly, but I feel like there's a
It
few
could have
things where they,
used anecdotes or stories from
yeah,
each person
something.
that she knew, like how they perceived her.
It
Obviously her
almost,
family loves her, but
yeah.
it would be interesting to hear how, like, I don't know, her boyfriend or her best friends who knew her differently than her parents, like, actually perceived
Yeah,
her too.
exactly. It almost feels like stuff was left on like the cutting room floor. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there's like another 45-minute version of this movie,
Yeah.
somewhere out there. Cause like I can't imagine editing something like this was easy. You know what I mean? Like, or
Right.
even like I was thinking about it as I was watching the movie. I was like, how do you even write this? Like, what does the script for this look like? It's gotta be insane.
You shoot and then you patch it together later.
Well, I mean,
hooking up a movie at the very end.
that must have been what they did. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't. How else could have you put it together? I mean, it's very interesting to see. I don't know.
So I just read this that the director Joel Anderson, he was finding it difficult to acquire funding for another script he had written that required a much larger budget.
Hmm.
So he decided to write a fictional this movie on a low budget, and he said that uh, it's meant to be an exploration of grief, which is what you
Yeah.
stated first, um, and how technology is used to record people's lives, track memories, and how technology mediates a lot of our experiences.
I mean, I can
Um,
definitely. I think mission accomplished. I mean, I can
yeah, I
definitely
think he
see all
nailed it.
that.
If that's what he was going for, he got it.
I also think it's kind of funny, like from what you just said. I brought up Man Bites Dog earlier, and that's three guys that made that movie, and they're also the three main actors in the movie. But they
Yeah,
did it. They did the same thing. They wanted to make a movie about this serial killer, but they couldn't afford to shoot it like a regular movie. So they're like, "Well, how do we make a cheap movie?" And there's a interview on the Criterion Blu-ray. It's kind of funny where they're like, well, how do you make a cheap movie? And they're like, well, you got to shoot a cheap looking movie. Like that's what they did. Uh,
well, here's another thing
also
that
one
you'll
of those
like.
filmmakers passed away like right after that movie. So R.I.P. Those guys are great.
Um, there was no written dialogue in the script apparently.
Wow.
It
So
was
all
just
of
it was
this is
all
improvised.
improvised.
Wow, that's even more
That makes it impressive.
that's even more impressive to be
Yeah,
honest. Like
because
that's
these were no name actors. I mean,
and again
never reckon.
they're so natural. Like
Yeah,
everybody
I think that's
felt
what made it natural. They had to improvise it.
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I'm pretty impressed by that.
yeah.
Anything else? I mean, we're about 5 minutes.
I think scores. You want to go
Yeah,
first?
scores. Yeah, I really like this movie. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Oh, that's good.
I do want to say one last thing, and this is probably unfair to say, but like again, when I opened and introed this movie, I see it on like top 10 scariest movie. Like I don't think this
Yeah,
movie is
it's not
scary.
scary at all.
I think it's kind of freaky. Like I
Yeah,
think like thinking about it and like putting yourself in the scenario of like literally seeing your future death is horrifying. Like if you read it in a book, it would stick with you. But I don't find this movie
that's
scary.
another thing. They needed to have more scenes with Alice and her that psychologist or psychiatrist or
Yeah,
whatever
I
the
agree.
guy's role.
I that was some of the most interesting parts of the movie.
Yeah,
Also the psychic, well, he was a psychic.
psychic. Yes,
He was pretty interesting in and of itself. I thought, because again, is he a charlatan? Is he real?
right.
And you still don't even know by the end of the movie. Like
Yeah,
it seems like it's funny because at a certain point when he had like the seance or whatever, he's like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, I've never been caught up in something like this, and I thought
yeah,
that was like really interesting.
yeah.
So you go.
I'll give it a 5.3. I didn't think it was terrible by any
Yeah,
means. It's it's hard for me nowadays to like watch a movie all the way through. So if I can watch it in two separate viewings, that's pretty good for me, which I did
yeah,
for this one. Sometimes I struggle through some of these movies and it's like four or
yeah.
five sit downs to like
Uh,
get through a movie.
I recently watched Southland Tales, and it took me four separate times to sit
Oof.
down and watch that
Yeah,
fucking
see
thing.
what I mean?
That movie's
Um,
horrible.
so yeah, I thought well, and in hindsight, looking back on it and now knowing that this was all improvised, just like the Blair Witch, that was
Yeah,
improvised
that
too.
was improvised
Um,
too.
I mean, like kudos, like what an impressive task, not just from the director, because you don't really know what you're going to get from the actors.
Yeah, yeah.
But the actors themselves, like if they're just given an outline of what to do and what to say, I mean, this movie could have gone any which way. So
Yeah, and to be able to form cohesive characters because I felt like I knew all the characters. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like that's even more impressive. Like I know the father, I know the mom, I know the brother. Like it's pretty impressive.
yeah. So yeah, mid, as the kids
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I'm surprised that split decision on this one. I
Yeah.
really it really worked for me. But again, like I kind of I've watched I don't know a million of those Netflix true crime documentaries. Like I love that kind of stuff. So I think that also kind of fed into why I like this movie so much.
Yeah.
and I just thought it was so creative. Like I've never, like I said, like as far as a horror movie goes, I've never seen anything like this. Like I was just very impressed, and I was waiting for the other shoe to drop the whole time. I was waiting for some scene that was going to be like, okay, like this is
I
too
know.
much.
That I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad they didn't fall into that trope either, where it's like a
I was
cup
waiting.
flies across the room,
Mhm.
or like shit like that just drives me nuts. It's
Yeah, and I
so
mean,
overdone.
the most fantastical scene is the scene with the dead body or the apparition or whatever. But
Yeah,
even that seems believable in the context of how you're shown it. So
pretty tasteful.
yeah,
And you know what? The I couldn't help but laugh every time I heard one of the actors say no,
nar
because all
nar
I hear is you saying
nar
"Arr."
nar nar nar. Oh God. Well, like we're gonna it's funny, we probably had like two Australian listeners and they like heard me and they're like, fuck this
Now we've
guy.
been boycotted in
Yeah,
the entire
they
continent.
go fucking storm off, eat their Vegemite. They're like, fuck this guy.
I heard it's not so
Nar.
bad.
Oh, Vegemite? I've had it. It's disgusting. I don't
Yeah,
like it at all. You can buy it at some grocery stores up in your fancy New York City grocery stores. I'm sure they have it.
no thanks.
Nar. All right, everybody, that's the show. I don't know what we're gonna watch next week. I
But it'll
really
be
want to
good.
watch. I really want to watch this new Shutter movie coming out, which now the title eludes me. So this was a terrible idea to bring it up, but I don't think it comes out for another 2 weeks. So,
I'll insert an AI voice in your place.
but anyway, all right, everybody,
All right.
that's the show.
Good chat. Good talk.
See ya.
Hope you enjoyed. Good night.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
PJ. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.